Super Typhoon Haiyan, one of the strongest storms ever, hit central Philippines. With 25 million people in its path, Super Typhoon Haiyan, one of the strongest storms recorded on the planet, smashed into the Philippines on Friday morning. As the storm plowed across the cluster of islands in the heart of the country, casualties were reported. More than 100,000 people took shelter in evacuation centers and hundreds of flights were cancelled. The storm brought tremendously powerful winds roaring ashore as it made landfall in the province of eastern Visayas, disrupting communications with the major city in its path. With sustained winds of 315 kilometers per hour, 195 meters per hour, and gusts as strong as 380 kilometers per hour, 235 meters per hour, Haiyan was probably the strongest tropical cyclone to hit land anywhere in the world in recorded history. It will take further analysis after the storm passes to establish whether it is a record. As the monster storm spun towards the Philippines on Thursday, President Aquino III warned the nation that it faced a calamity. Category 5 strength. Haiyan, known in the Philippines as Yolanda, appeared to retain much of its terrifying force as it moved west over the country, with sustained winds of 295 kilometers per hour, gusts as strong as 360 kilometers per hour. Haiyan's wind strength makes it equivalent to a Category 5 hurricane. Video footage from on the ground in the Philippines showed howling winds bending palm trees and whipping debris down deserted streets. Governor Roger Mercado of Southern Leyte, a province in eastern Visayas, said Friday morning that all roads were impassable because of fallen trees. He said it was too soon to gauge the level of devastation caused by Haiyan. We don't know the extent of the damage, Mercado said. We are trying to estimate this. We are prepared, but this is really a wallop. The typhoon was forecast to churn across the central Philippines during Friday and part of Saturday before extending into the South China Sea. The storm is expected to weaken slightly as it moves across land, but forecasters predict that it will maintain super typhoon intensity throughout its passage over the islands. A super typhoon has surface winds that sustain speeds of more than 240 kilometers per hour for at least a minute, according to the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Haiyan is so large in diameter that clouds from it are affecting two-thirds of the country, which stretches more than 1,850 kilometers. Tropical storm force winds are extending 240 kilometers from the typhoon center. Very real danger. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council said Friday that one person had been confirmed dead as a result of the storm in the eastern province of Surigao del Sur. Authorities in Cebu said they were unable to establish whether a woman who was hit by a falling coconut tree in the north of the province was dead or injured. Neil Sanchez, a provincial disaster management official, said authorities had lost contact with the town where the incident happened. On Thursday morning, a day before the storm arrived, a one-year-old child and another person died after they were hit by debris from a tornado in the southern province of Cotabato. Authorities said It was unclear whether the tornado was related to the approaching typhoon. Ahead of the typhoon's arrival, thousands of people had been relocated away from particularly vulnerable areas in Tacloban City, which is situated in a coastal area of the region that bore the initial brunt of the storm. Communications with Tacloban, which has a population of around 200,000, were disrupted after the typhoon struck. In a speech Thursday, Aquino warned residents of the calamity our countrymen will face in these coming days. Let me repeat myself. This is a very real danger, and we can mitigate and lessen its effects if we use the information available to prepare, he said. Authorities have aircraft ready to respond, and officials have placed relief supplies in the areas that are expected to get hit, Aquino said. The effect of this storm can be eased through solidarity, he said. Earthquake survivors vulnerable. Authorities have warned dozens of provinces across the country to be prepared for possible flash floods and landslides. About 125,000 people nationwide were moved to evacuation centers. Some of the most vulnerable people are those living in temporary shelters on the central Philippine island of Bohol. Last month, a 7.1 magnitude earthquake hit the island, which lies close to the typhoon's predicted path. The quake killed at least 222 people, injured nearly 1,000, and displaced about 350,000, according to authorities. This has been a quake-hit area. For the past 3 weeks, people are still experiencing aftershocks, said Aaron Espy, a communications specialist in Bohol for the charity World Vision. And at the same time, these rains are giving them a really hard time. Most of them are advised to evacuate to sturdy structures, he said. But there are a few thousand displaced families in quake-hit areas that are still staying in makeshift camps, and now that the super typhoon is here, it's really heartbreaking to see them struggling. As we said, many people's tents are drenched, but they're still too afraid to relocate to enclosed structures because of the aftershock. Beach resort threatened. Another island in the storm's likely trajectory is the popular beach resort of Boracay. Some tourists there were cutting their vacations short to get away from the possible danger. Rose Evans, an aviation professional from Florida, said there was a deafening urgency and panic among the long lines of holidaymakers waiting for boats to get off Boracay on Thursday. Speaking by phone before his flight to Manila took off, he said he felt horrible for those who may end up stuck in the storm's path. Evans said he and his travel companions, who are leaving the Philippines 2 days earlier than planned, feel very fortunate to have the ability to make arrangements to be safe. Situated near an area of the Pacific Ocean where tropical cyclones form, the Philippines regularly suffers severe storm damage. An average of 20 typhoons hit the archipelagic nation every year, and several of those cause serious damage. In December, Typhoon Bova wreaked widespread devastation on the southern Philippine island of Mindanao. The storm, the most powerful to hit the country that year, is estimated to have killed as many as 1,900 people. Who built that donut? FDA tax on trans fats. So long, margarine, artificial trans fats in food may eventually become a thing of the past. The Food and Drug Administration on Thursday took a first step toward potentially eliminating most trans fat from the food supply, saying it has made a preliminary determination that a major source of trans fat, partially hydrogenated oil, is no longer generally recognized as safe. If the preliminary determination is finalized, according to the FDA, then partially hydrogenated oils will become food additives that could not be used in food without approval. Foods with unapproved additives cannot legally be sold. Trans fat can be found in processed foods, including desserts, microwave popcorn products, frozen pizza, margarine, and coffee creamer, and has been linked to an increased risk of heart disease. Partially hydrogenated oil is formed when hydrogen is added to liquid oils to make solid fats, like shortening and margarine. It increases the shelf life and the flavor of food. Partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, or shortening, was used in American kitchens as early as 1911. However, in recent years, many food manufacturers have taken steps to limit or eliminate trans fat from their products. McDonald's, for instance, stopped cooking its French fries in trans fat more than a decade ago. The company's website says all its fried menu items are free of trans fat. New York City in 2007 adopted a regulation banning partially hydrogenated vegetable oils and spreads in restaurants. Mayor Michael Bloomberg said Thursday that he was encouraged by the FDA's move. The groundbreaking public health policies we have adopted here in New York City have become a model for the nation for one reason: they've worked. Today, New Yorkers' life expectancy is far higher than the national average, and we've achieved dramatic reductions in disease, including heart disease. The FDA deserves great credit for taking this step, which will help Americans live longer, healthier lives, Bloomberg said. Trans fat intake among American consumers decreased from 4.6 grams per day in 2003 to about a gram a day in 2012, according to the FDA. However, current intake remains a significant public health concern, FDA Commissioner Margaret Hamburg said in a written statement. There is no safe level of consumption of trans fat, Hamburg said. It has been shown to raise the bad, or LDL, cholesterol. Through our efforts at product reformulation and the development of suitable alternatives, trans fats that are not naturally occurring have been drastically reduced in the food supply. The Grocery Manufacturers Association, which represents more than 300 food, beverage, and consumer products companies, said in a prepared statement. Since 2005, food manufacturers have voluntarily lowered the amount of trans fats in their food products by over 73%. Other countries are also working to reduce trans fat in the food supply. Policies in Brazil, Costa Rica, Denmark, the Netherlands, South Korea, and the United States have proved effective over the past 2 decades, the World Health Organization said in April. The WHO has called for eliminating trans fat from the global food supply. The FDA has opened a 60-day comment period on the determination to collect additional data and to gain input on the time potentially needed for food manufacturers to reformulate products that currently contain artificial trans fat should this determination be finalized, the agency said. There are two phases to the process, FDA officials said Thursday. The agency will evaluate the comments and evidence received during the comment period. If we finalize our conclusion, then we are inviting comments from industry on what would be an appropriate phase-out, said Michael Taylor, the agency's Deputy Commissioner for Food. The timeline will be based on the comments we get. Given the public health impact, we want to move as quickly as we can. The National Restaurant Association noted in a statement the industry's tremendous strides in reducing or eliminating trans fats. We plan to discuss the impact of this proposal on the industry and submit comments, and we will continue to work with our members in the manufacturing supply chain to address any new federal standards that may arise out of this process, said John McLaughlin, the association's Vice President of Industry Affairs and Food Policy. Hamburg called Thursday's move an important step toward protecting more Americans from the potential dangers of trans fat. The American Heart Association, the American Medical Association, and the Center for Science in the Public Interest were among those praising the move. The scientific evidence is clear. Eating food with trans fat increases production of bad cholesterol, which is a risk factor. Which is the risk factor for heart disease, the AHA said. So what should consumers do in the meantime? Choose products that have the lowest combined amount of saturated fat, cholesterol, and trans fat, the FDA said. Under current regulations, companies can claim their food as 0 grams of trans fat if the food contains less than 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving, according to Michael Honigford, a consumer safety officer at the FDA. But if partially hydrogenated oil is listed in the ingredients, there may still be a small amount of trans fat present. Nancy Brown, the Heart Association CEO, said she hopes the FDA goes a step further and revises labels for foods that are trans fat free. The preliminary determination was based on available scientific evidence and the findings of expert scientific panels, the FDA said. The determination covers only partially hydrogenated oils, not trans fat that naturally occurs in some meat and dairy products. Trans fat is also present at very low levels in other edible oils, such as fully hydrogenated oils, where it is unavoidably produced during the manufacturing process, according to the FDA. Avoiding food containing artificially produced trans fat could prevent 10,000 to 20,000 heart attacks and 3,000 to 7,000 coronary heart disease deaths each year, according to one study from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Artificial trans fat is a uniquely powerful promoter of heart disease, and today's announcement will hasten its eventual disappearance from the food supply, said Michael Jacobson, the Center for Science in the Public Interest Executive Director. Not only is artificial trans fat not safe, it's not remotely necessary. Many companies, large and small, have switched to healthier oils over the past decade. I hope that those restaurants and food manufacturers that still use these harmful ingredients see the writing on the wall and promptly replace it. TEPCO to begin removing nuclear fuel rods at Fukushima. More than 2 years after an earthquake and tsunami brought disaster to a nuclear plant in eastern Japan, operators Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO, announced plans Wednesday to begin the painstaking and dangerous process of removing fuel rods from a crippled reactor at the site. The procedure is considered a milestone in the estimated $50 billion cleanup of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Fuel removal really means the start of decommissioning, plant chief Akira Ono said, according to Japan's Nikkei Shimbun. When the tsunami swamped the plant, located 149 miles north of Tokyo on Japan's eastern seaboard in March 2011, it cut the power to vital cooling systems for the 3 reactors in use at the time. This resulted in the second worst nuclear accident in history, after Chernobyl in the former Soviet Union in 1986, as the reactors melted down and leaked radioactive material into the atmosphere. The Fukushima cleanup has been beset by numerous problems, including the leak of 300 tons of radioactive water from a storage tank. TEPCO will begin taking out 1,500 spent fuel units from Reactor 4 for storage in safer, specially designed containers, the company says. The reactor building exploded in the aftermath of tsunami, likely due to a buildup of hydrogen from a neighboring reactor, according to TEPCO. The cost of decontamination is estimated to be $50.7 billion or more, Japan's Yomiuri Shimbun reported. Fallout continues for Tokyo on the Fukushima disaster. Earlier this week, China demanded an accurate assessment of cleanup efforts. China followed closely the countermeasures to be adopted by Japan. We urged the Japanese side to spare no effort in minimizing the subsequent impact of the accident and provide timely, comprehensive and accurate information to the international community, Wang Ying, China's Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations, said Tuesday at a meeting of the UN General Assembly, according to the state-run Xinhua news agency. ECB cuts rates to ward off deflation risk. The European Central Bank surprised markets Thursday by cutting interest rates to a record low, trying to prevent the Eurozone from sinking into a period of stagnation and deflation. Reducing interest rates for the second time this year, the central bank cut the main refinancing rate to 0.25% from 0.5%. ECB President Mario Draghi said the bank was ready to take further measures, including another rate cut, if Thursday's move failed to have the desired effect. A few economists had predicted the ECB would cut interest rates this month after a surprise decline in inflation. But most expected the central bank to wait until December, when it will have third quarter GDP data to consider and a better idea of the trend in inflation. By and large, we don't see deflation, Draghi said, rejecting comparisons with Japan, which is just beginning to recover from years of falling prices. But he acknowledged a significant change in the Eurozone's inflation outlook in recent weeks. Eurozone prices rose just 0.7% in October after a 1.1% increase in September, with food prices and the cost of services coming under the most pressure. Holger Schmiding at Berenberg Bank said the ECB's prediction that price rises would remain low for a prolonged period implied a risk of mild deflation. To some extent, the ECB move today can be seen as taking out insurance against that hypothetical risk, he said. Eurozone unemployment is stuck at record levels above 12%, and the economy is failing to generate momentum after emerging from recession earlier this year. Unemployment won't start falling until 2015 at the earliest, according to EU forecasts published this week. The European Commission trimmed its estimate of GDP growth next year to 1.1% and said it was too early to declare an end to the region's crisis. With 90 million out of work and wages barely rising, domestic demand remains very weak, and the euro's rally in recent months against major currencies has made life more difficult for Europe's exporters, as lower growth in emerging markets hasn't helped. Industrial production in Germany, Europe's export powerhouse, suffered a surprisingly large fall of 0.9% in September, showing that manufacturing companies are still very cautious about the economic outlook. The euro fell by more than 1% against the dollar on news of the rate cut, and European stocks posted gains led by Germany's DAX index. Data released Wednesday confirmed the fragility of the recovery, with retail sales across the 17-nation Eurozone falling by 0.6% in September, compared with August. Sharp declines were recorded in Spain and Portugal, countries that had recently shown signs of putting the crisis behind them. Deflation, or a general fall in prices, can tip economies into a downward spiral as consumers and businesses delay purchases in anticipation of further falls to come. It also increases the value of debt, a big risk for the Eurozone, where government debt is expected to hit 36% of GDP next year. Meanwhile, the Bank of England kept interest rates unchanged as expected. Growth in the UK is picking up strongly, but the bank's governor, Mark Carney, has made clear he won't raise rates until unemployment falls to 7%. British Airways denies return flight for 500-pound man. A French family is planning to sail home from the United States on the Queen Mary 2 after British Airways declined to honor their return ticket, according to CNN affiliate WBBM. The Chinese family was supposed to fly home to France a week ago. The family has been in the United States seeking medical treatment for their 22-year-old son Kevin's hormone disorder, the family told WBBM. Kevin Shannon weighs 500 pounds. The British Airways team worked tirelessly to try and find a solution for the family, but unfortunately we cannot safely accommodate the customer on any of our aircraft, British Airways said in a statement. We were in regular contact with the family to discuss other options, and we provided hotel accommodation throughout, the airline said. The customer service team exhausted all options. We'll always try to accommodate a customer if it's at all possible and safe to do so. The airline offered the family a full refund. Kevin Shanace requires oxygen and regular medical attention, WBBM reported. Kevin's mother, Christina Shanace, told WBBM she doesn't understand why the airline won't take Kevin home. If they could bring him here with that problem in economy, there is a way to take him back by economy, she said, but just get him back home for his medical treatment to continue. Generally, the airline would offer larger passengers the option to purchase another seat, an airline spokesman told CNN. British Airways would not comment on the specifics of the Shanace case, citing privacy concerns. The Shanace family plans to take the train to New York, WBBM reported, where they will board the Queen Mary 2.